Hello guys and welcome to my new video. So today I decided to continue the series of covering a lot of the healers viability in 7.3 and 7.35. So I'll be doing a video about RESTO DRUID performance, healing performance in 7.3 and my predictions for 7.35, basically with tier 21 set and things like that. If you want to check out the previous videos that I did for other healers, it's in the playlist and there's a link below as well. So first of all, I've been looking through RESTO DRUID logs and things like that to get a better picture of the healing output. Like I mentioned before, I link logs and I link charts and things like that, but they are not the best indication. It's not healing is not like a DPS. DPS charts are way different compared to healing. Healing output highly depends on cooldown usage, and I mean, you might lose HPS by regrowthing someone instead of like casting wild growth that provide more HPS, but saving someone's life is better than actually looking better on the meters. But these meters I'm using basically to highlight how the whole Tomb of Sargeras has been kind of a nightmare for RESTO Druids overall. Just looking at logs right now, like overall RESTO Druids are ranked as the lowest healers, but even getting into logs a bit more, like first of all, RESTO Druid niche is all about constant AoE damage, heavy movement. This is where RESTO Druids are going to do really well. And you saw at the start of at least start of Tomb of Sargeras, that a lot of world first guilds were using RESTO Druids because fights like Maidens, fights like Avatar really favored heavy movement, favored RESTO Druid healing. And on top of that, RESTO Druids at the start of the expansion, or at the start of the Tomb of Sargeras, we're using tier 19 4 set, which most likely they are still using if they have a high tier 19 4 set. So, which kind of made RESTO Druids really appealing world first healers basically. They were doing really well on heavy movement fights, really well on heavy AoE fights as well. Maidens come as an example. Right now when I'm looking at the logs, basically all the logs overall, you can still see RESTO Druids are doing quite well on Maiden, Avatar and fights like that. But the problem you can see, at least with the healing meters, is that if you look at the actually item levels of RESTO Druids, if you look at the 930 to like 936 item level bracket, you can see the RESTO Druids are one of the top healers, are doing really well. And after that, once people start getting those 940 item levels, they start getting Titanforged or Warforged tier sets. For example, Holy Priest 4 set is really strong. Every other healer seems to scale better, or just their tier set seems to do, like, if you have a decent tier set or you have a good tier set as a healer, getting an upgrade, getting a Warforged is really nice. It's kind of a bit different for Restoration Druids. The more gear other healers get, it seems the rest of Druids are falling behind, purely because of the confusion between when do I swap from tier 19 4 set to tier 20. Tier 24 set has to have 20-30 item level upgrades on each piece for me to be using tier 20. And if I'm swapping to tier 20, I kind of have to get used to the fluorescence playstyle. And if the fight doesn't favor fluorescence, does my healing actually go? Like, there is so much confusion right now from when to swap tier 19 to tier 20. Just purely because everything, tier 20 by itself is not a terrible tier set. It's mainly, the whole problem is stemming from tier 19 being really strong, and even tier 19 2Ps being super strong. And tier 19 4 set is going to be nerfed, 2 set is not going to be nerfed. So 2 set, possibly tier 19 2 set might be even carried into Antorus raids. So with this confusion, with the tier 19, with the tier 20 confusion, with the how many item levels do I need to have, with tier 20 being very fluorescence based, so favoring fights like Maidens, possibly Sisters, being totally useless in like Avatar and even Kil'jaeden, or like really hard to optimize tier 20 for those fights. RESTO Druids were stuck in this 930 to 936 item level bracket using tier 19 and kind of trying, like, falling behind because every other healer was getting really high Titanforge or really good gear with their tier sets, because every other healer got quite a good tier 20 set, especially Holy Priest. So let's look at the viability. Like, I mean, if you played the whole Tomb of Sargeras, like, I've looked at myself and I actually used tier 19 for the whole Tomb of Sargeras. I actually ended up using tier 19 for the whole Tomb of Sargeras. So what's going to happen in 7.35? What tier set are we gonna get? We're gonna get tier 21, 2-piece bonus and 4-piece bonus, which are very strong. Thank God. So the 2-piece bonus, the Seer's Gift now applies Dreamer to the target, healing them over 8 seconds. So this is actually, the 2-piece bonus is really insanely strong, and the pure reason is because it applies a hot. The Seer's Gift is a completely passive heal. You don't have much control over it. You don't actually have to worry about anything. Thing is that it's going to apply a dot on a person or a hot on a person, and on that person all of your other heals is going to scale with mastery. So all the other heals that you do on that person, if you have more rejuvenation, so if you're going to wild growth, whatever, those heals are going to do more healing because of how mastery works. So just having the 2 set is going to be really strong. The 4 set overall is quite a strong healing, a healing tier set, but the reason that because the dot actually scales with mastery, it makes it one of the most insane tier sets. It's right now predicted to be around 11 to 14% healing increase, and that's not just from the 4 set, that's also because of the hot that scales with mastery. So I'm not sure if Blizzard is actually predicting these increases, because we saw with tier 19, Blizzard didn't really anticipate that the free rejuvenation that you get is going to scale so well with the legendary showless, is going to scale so well with mastery. So I'm not sure if Blizzard is actually predicting this huge increase with the Druid tier 21. Let's hope it's not gonna get nerfed, because Druids need some love right now. Why didn't it need some love? Because of what happened in Tomb Sargeras, because of the whole confusion with tier 19, tier 20. Like, I mean, I get so many questions. I read so many people asking about tier 19, tier 20, and just hating on tier 20, like quitting the game, not playing the class anymore because of how convoluted it was. But like I said, if you look at tier 21 4 set, when you cast Wild Growth, you have a 100% chance to cause your Seer's Gift to heal a target 400% more frequently for 5 seconds. Again, completely passive. You just cast Wild Growth. I mean, you're going to be casting Wild Growth. You're not really going to consider... You're going to be casting Wild Growth when there's enough damage and if your mana can sustain it. So this is tier 21 is a complete passive tier. You're going to want to get it as soon as possible. I mean, you probably won't get it as soon as possible because most guilds will allocate gear to DPS, but you want to try and coin it, you want to try and get it. There's not going to be such a thing as it needs to be 10 item levels, 20 item levels higher than tier this, tier. It's not going to be like that. It's going to be like any item level upgrade, just straight up, you're going to start getting it. You want to get it straight away. You want to pray to the RNG gods for it to drop. So the whole confusion of when do I swap is going to disappear. It's going to make Resto Druid gearing or itemization much easier. And how are Resto Druids are doing overall? Resto Druids, first of all, even with, like I said at the very start of the video, even with the tier set confusions, Resto Druids are still very strong niche healers. Any fight that requires movement, any fight that there's constant AoE damage, Resto Druids are going to do really well. Even a fight like Mistress Sajin, where Resto Druids are like really low on the meters, because the fight is more like damage comes in and then everyone gets topped up in the next couple of seconds, and then you have to wait like 30 seconds again for more damage to come in, which really caters to instant healing classes like Holy Paladins. Even a fight like that, before the Mistress Sajin nerf, Phase 3, where all the abilities come at once, people have multiple dots on them, people are taking damage. This is where Resto Druid, and there's a heavy amount of movement, people have to dodge a lot of stuff and things like that. Resto Druids were really good for that phase, and that phase was one of the hardest phases for that fight. And having a Resto Druid whose output is probably below everyone else, but Resto Druid will probably carry that phase, will do really well for that phase. You look bad on the logs, but you'll help or even carry the whole guild into Mistress Sajin kill. So that's why I say healing meters are not always the best indication, but it's a good indication of how the tier sets have turned out in Tomb Sargeras. Like I said, Resto Druids provide a really powerful niche healing. Resto Druid tier sets have been quite a disaster in Tomb Sargeras. They're looking much better in Antorus raid. For the people who are looking to reroll Resto Druid or looking to play Resto Druid or looking to come back, Resto Druids in Antorus are looking to be really nice. Tier 21 is looking pretty nice. The problem is right now that with Antorus raid, with tier 19 4 set being nerfed, you're most likely going to be using tier 24 set depending on how quickly you can get tier 21. So you'll be probably sticking with tier 24 set for the like few of the heroic fights, maybe even some of the mythic fights if you are going to do Antorus raid, depending on how lucky you are. But the minute 7.35 comes out, start getting those tier 21 sets, and Resto Druids are going to be looking really, really strong. They fill in a really particularly powerful niche, and I can see Resto Druids being used in a lot of the world first fights again, especially with cooldowns like Tranquility and things like that. So thank you for watching this guide. Let me know how you feel about Resto Druids in 7.3. Let me know how you feel about Resto Druids in Tomb of Sargeras, the whole tier discussion and things like that. And let me know how you feel about tier 21. And I'll see you in my next guide.